to Simple Conversations with ASG.
Like there's this classic story about the famous TV evangelist Billy Graham.
Yeah, I've heard of him.
Oh yeah.
He was mentioned on a past episode, funny enough.
Oh, and Graham was this young evangelist who was holding tent revivals in L.A. And he just hyped about, added on there the danger of communism, and then all of a sudden, Graham sees these all these reporters and cameras aimed at him, and the story went that William Randolph Hearst, as he was decomposing in his mansion in San Simeon, heard about Graham and what he was doing, and he liked it, and he gave the order to his editors, puff Graham, like hype him, and a legend was born. So yes, the news media does have an effect, and always these corporate. It's unfortunate that these corporate moguls decide what's a story and what isn't. I have to say this.
That has kind of made me think. You mentioned obviously that these news media networks are backed by a massive backer. It's always, like you said, it's always $1 billion company. These big studios are constantly looking for news networks because they can get easy promotion. Do you think knowing that money is behind them and they have to produce to make that money worth it plays into the agendas they push? Maybe they push wrong agendas because they know it's going to get big hits.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's been known to happen that if there's an article related to the recording industry, they would have at the site an advertisement for a chain of, say, record stores. And I remember back in the 70s, in these newspapers had the editorial section, and the Mobile Oil Company would place an ad along with the editorials, passing itself as another editorial, as just one more ad, looking like just another editorial, but it's really an ad complaining about regulation of the petroleum industry. And and advertisers play a big role. Like I show you, advertisers was told advertising money if an unfavorable story came out. Yeah, the money does affect things.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but you mentioned obviously televangelists and story breaking, and last year I had the pleasure of interviewing Pat Robertson's old bodyguard. You may remember him as a televangelist. He tried to run for president, and
oh yeah.
I had a conversation with his ex bodyguard who he quickly left the campaign, and he tried to kind of go against Ralph Reed, who was heavily involved in the campaign. But he mentioned that at a time when he wasn't running for presidency yet, but he wanted to make his name in the political game, not just the televangelist world. But he had reporters and journalists on payroll, almost as employees, as saying, right, this is what I'm going to do next. Can you put the story out and almost expose it before it's happened, and then I'll follow through with it and I'll make this massive boom and everyone will talk about it? Is that common?
Well, I don't know how common it is, but it's definitely not journalism. Journalism is more like propaganda. I mean, were these supposedly mainstream journalists or just hired PR people for Robertson?
I never asked it too in depth because there was things I wasn't allowed to ask. But from what I know from doing some research after going away, they worked for networks. So they almost fed the information lightly into the network and someone took it and ran. Almost like what you mean with people pushing their agendas. They put it out there and then the news stations, they run with it because they know it's going to get hits.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. That's an unfortunate practice. I mean, You do have to get close to the sources of the story to find out what's going on. But but still, as a paradox, there has to be a bit of distance to remember you don't work as a paid propagandist for this politician or this billionaire. You're a journalist and you work for the newspaper. You have to get the word out accurately and not try to hype this person's propaganda or agenda. In fact, in a second George W. Bush administration, I hope I'm not changing things around.
Go for it.
These ad agencies would have would put out videos that looked like actual stand-ups of TV reporters out in the field interviewing people that would be favorable of this or that industry or corporation or politician. And they would pass it on to smaller market TV stations to, because they were small stations, they didn't have a lot of money, so they passed these videos on to the TV stations as real news stories. But it was just a propaganda from an ad agency, and I that was a terrible thing. That was terrible. I mean, it's, it, there's a saying that there's starting to be you can't do the blur anymore between a real news story and what's excessive hype, and you still so that makes journalism, actual, real, in your face, get the facts straight journalism, more important, so you can be properly informed and make intelligent decisions and vote accordingly as citizens.